Okay, on this video, I'm going to start showing you some math problems from section 3.1. So the first one I'm going to start with, we're now dealing with the terms of combining like terms. Now, when you're combining like terms, just think that we're going to use the operators of addition or subtraction. And when I say like terms, it's something like if we have 4y plus 6y, we can go ahead and add this up. The reason why, because they both have the variable y. So you can combine those by adding those, and the final answer would be 10y. Now, if we had something like this where we had 3x minus 6x, we can go ahead and perform that operation of subtraction. And the reason why we can do that is because they both have the variable x. So we want to apply these rules that we learn. And the rule we learn is we convert this to addition, and this becomes the opposite. Now the rule states that they're opposite signs. We subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So our final answer will be negative 3x. All right. So what if we have something like this where we have 2y plus 8y plus 4y. Same thing. We're just going to be adding it up. We can do that because they all have the variable y. So they are like terms. So we're just going to add those up. And when we add those, oh, I'm sorry. The problem states is 2y, 8y, 4y, and then they also have minus 8 attached to the end. So we can combine those three, and when we do, our answer will be just adding those up. You'll end up with 14y, and then we still have this portion here that we did nothing with. So we're just going to write that out as minus 8. Now we look, can we take it any further? We cannot. That is our final answer. The reason why it's our final answer is because the 8 does not have the variable y. So we cannot combine those terms any further. Now, when we look in terms of multiplication, it's a different rule. So if we had something like 5 times 2x. Now, this is not about adding and subtracting like terms. All we have to do is just multiply it out. So this would be 10 and then bring along that x. So the answer is 10x. If we have something like negative 3 times 12y, we want to multiply it out, but we think about our rules. When we are multiplying or we're dividing, remember, if the signs are the same, we know we're going to end up with a positive answer. If they're different, if the signs are different, we know we're going to end up with a negative answer. So these are opposite signs. So when we multiply it out, we're going to end up with a negative 36 and bring along that y. Don't lose it. All right, so there's this new concept that we're going to be introduced to, which is called distribute. So distribute. And when you distribute, all you're doing here is multiplying. So however you want to look at the symbol of multiplying. So here's an example. If we have 8 times x plus 9. So that's our example. So to distribute, multiply it out. You multiply 8 times the x, and we also multiply 8 by the 9. But we have to think of the 9 as one unit right here as a plus 9. So when we multiply it out, let me write this. This becomes 8x plus 72. And we look at it, they both don't have the variable x, so this would be our final answer. So let's try another one. So if we have something like a negative 6, and we have 9z plus 8. So when we're multiplying this would be a negative and a positive. So we know we end up with a negative answer. So the answer would be negative 54. So that's equals negative 54. And don't forget the letter z. Now when we multiply these two, it's a negative and a positive. So that would be a negative 48. So we're just thinking about this a little bit differently when we're distributing, meaning we're multiplying it out. Okay, so let's keep moving. Let's try another problem. let's try something that's a little more difficult. If we have 2 times and we have 5x plus 1. Sorry about that. That 1 doesn't look too good. So 1. And then we're going to add that 2, and then we have 6 times x minus 2. Well, when you look inside the parentheses based on an order of operations, you can see we can't combine these because not both numbers have the same variable. So the next step would be to multiply before we add. So we're going to multiply these out. So when I start multiplying, I have 10x plus 2. Now I'm going to start multiplying these others. Now this here, I'm going to think of it as a positive 6. So that would be plus 6x, and then we have a positive and a minus 2 would give us a negative 12. Okay, so that's the first part. We distribute. All right, once we're done distributing, now we're going to see what we can combine, because now we're just dealing with addition and subtraction. So I'm going to see, well, I have a 10x here. Okay, so I have that one, a 10x, and here's a 6x. All right, so I can take this and go ahead and combine it. So that would be 16x. And now I'm going to go ahead and look at this. I have this and this. So really, take that off to the side. That would be 2 minus 12, which we've learned what we do is change this to a plus, make that the opposite. Now we can see that they're the opposite signs. We subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So we end up with a negative 10. So I'm going to write that as minus 10 over here. And we can't combine it any further. So that is our final answer. All right, see, take you into this concept here, which is 8d, oops, no negative. So 8d minus 4c minus d. Now, it's understood when you don't see a number here before the variable, it's understood that it's 1d. There's a 1, so it would be 1d like that. And it's also written as just d. So in terms of combining like terms, this would be 8d minus 4c minus 1d. Now I would look and say, okay, well, this has a d, and take all of this in a d. So the answer for that would be 8 minus 1 would give us 7d. Whoops, sorry about that. That would give us 7d minus 4c. And we can't combine it any further because they both have different variables. One is a C and one is a D. So that's your final answer. All right, let's go and let's try this one. So if we have something like this, if we have a negative, and in parentheses we have 5x minus 10, and we're going to add that to 3 times 5x plus 5. All right, now this is the same concept over here. Whenever you see a negative on the outside here, it's understood to be known that there's a 1 here. So again, that's just one of those things you have to remember. If you have anything like that, like this, you know that it's understood that that's a 1 that they just eliminate for a mathematical notation. So we're just going to multiply that out. So we would multiply the negative 1 by these pieces here. So if I do that, we end up with a negative 5x and a positive 10. Now I'm going to use this as a plus 3 to start multiplying these out. So my answer there would be 2 positives give me a plus 15x, and the next one, 2 positives, give me a plus 15. Now that I distributed, meaning I multiplied it out, now we're going to deal with this adding and subtracting and combining anything we can. So I have this one and I have this one that I can start working on. So we know that a negative 5 plus 15 signs are opposite. Subtract, take the sign of the larger number. So we have a 10. So we start writing it as 10x. And then we have these two here that we can combine. And we just know that's going to give us an answer of 25. So we can't take it any further because they both don't have a variable x. So this would be our final answer. Okay, let's try this one here. So if we have something like 6y minus 2 times y minus 1 plus 3. So the first thing I would start evaluating, I'm like, well, we got to do order of operations. Can I do anything inside the parentheses? I cannot. So the next thing is I can't do any addition and subtraction until I multiply. So we have to multiply before we can add and subtract. So I'm just going to write the 6y because there's nothing I can do with it. So write it out. Now when I start multiplying this, I'm going to think of it as -2. So that would be minus 2y. And then 2 negatives will give you a +2. And then just write the +3 because we did nothing with that. So we're just bringing it down and writing it out. Now I'm going to go ahead, since I have nothing but adding and subtracting, I'm going to see what I can combine, which I can see these two, they both have the variable y. So I just subtract those and I end up with 4y. And then the remaining stuff here, that just gives me a value of +5. And I can't take it any further because both of them do not have the same variable. All right, just a couple more for this 3.1 section. If it asks for a perimeter, all you have to do is add all sides. So there's something in your example. It's probably like for mine, it gave me all these measurements, a 2y plus a 6 plus a 5y plus 16 plus 3y and then plus 9y. These were all the sides on my image. So all you do is, you can see it's all adding all the way across, but you just take the ones that have the variables and add those up. And when you do that, you should end up with, let's see, perimeter equals 19y. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my numbers, these, and add those up. And that should be plus 22. And that's your final answer. So that's the perimeter. Perimeter, you add all sides. Now you're going to have a word problem when you're dealing with the area. And you're just going to multiply 2 sides. So you just multiply 2 sides. So the one I had in my homework was 2y plus 1 times 23. So you could rewrite that. You could rewrite it as this. So you could 23. Sometimes it's easier to rewrite it so you can multiply it out and distribute it. So you just multiply here and then here. So the area equals, and when I multiply it out, it should be 46y plus 23. And that would be, and if I think in this problem it was meters, so it would be square meters. When it's a perimeter, it's just meters. When you're dealing with this area, then you have to include the word square meters. I hope this video helps you.